Hey everyone, and welcome back to another hangout session with CP Future. I'm Kyra, and we are here with our core team. Yeah, what? Marcy, Ellie, how are you?
We're great. Welcome back, everybody. How are you? How are you, Ellie?
I'm doing good. We had a break from Thanksgiving. So
Yeah, that's right. And how are you, Rowan?
I'm great. I'm sick. The kids got me sick, but I'm doing really well.
Other than being sick?
Yes, other than being sick.
That's great to hear. How about you, Nini?
I'm doing good. It's raining right now, so it's gonna be really humid tomorrow. I'm really not looking forward to it, but other than that, I feel great.
Oh, that's really good. So we have a few people from our Action Academy space who've been leads in our organization, or not organization, in Action Academy, and they are zooming in from different parts of our country right now. So Alejandra, where are you zooming in from?
I'm from Georgia.
And how is it over there in Georgia?
It's so cold.
Oh, it's
In my
cold.
room, I can't change the temperature in my room, and it's so cold.
No.
But it's
You
okay.
can have my you can have my heat. I'll trade you. That's
And where are
fine.
you zooming in from, Nini?
Houston, Texas. So it's really hot.
It's hot, man. Okay, we'll trade. How about you,
Yeah.
Kelly? Where are you zooming in from?
I'm in Pensacola, Florida, and it's getting cooler, and which makes me happy because I'm not a hot person.
Me
So I'm happy.
And you, Rowan?
I'm in Connecticut right now. We live in New England. It's pretty cold right now. It's gonna be warm tomorrow because we got that.
Texas doesn't always seem to get the memo half the time. So
No,
we're just gonna leave it at
no,
that.
never.
Well, welcome back, everybody. If you're tuning in again, or for those that are brand new to this space, my name is Larcy Douglas. I'm one of the directors at Common Power, and these are the folks that have made Action Academy an amazing space for young, rising, emerging leaders to practice developing their civic leadership. And you heard it from where they're zooming in from today. They're across the country. And that's a cool thing about Action Academy is that students can zoom in from anywhere and participate in a 10-week, really specific curated content of programming that educates and teaches about democracy, what expands it, what suppresses it, and then all the pathways that we entree them into civic engagement. So we're going to hear from just really a few of our leaders. This does not even equate to the totality of leaders that have emerged from Action Academy, but we're going to hear from a few because we wanted to hear just a few thoughts about maybe the reaction from the election, but also what it's going to be like being a blueberry in a in a red state, or what we call blueberries in tomato soup. So Nini's in Texas and Alejandra's in Georgia. So we're going to hear from them about what the potential future would look like under the second term of a Trump administration. But first, before we do that, one of the things we like to do at Action Academy is have fun and eat and play games at the same time. So what game do we have today, Kyra?
We have Uno, and as you may know, when you transfer objects through a screen, they have to be giant first. Shout out to Willy Wonka. So I'm just gonna pass these out. So Nini, here are your Uno cards.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
You're welcome.
you.
Look
Thank
at that.
you.
Kelly,
Oh, they're small.
I have yours. There you go.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Rowan, are you ready?
Mhm.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
I got you. All right. Let me get you yours, Ellie and Larcy. I'm going double. You ready?
Double what?
Double. There we go.
Yay.
I love that.
All right.
I love that.
Alejandra, you ready? This one's
Yes.
kind of far. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
So that was a little far. Actually, we're probably the furthest because where are
That
you
was-
zooming in from, Kyra?
I am in Maryland. Shout out to Marylanders in the DMV.
Okay, so these Uno cards just passed through 7 states between us and
Wow.
Seattle,
Literally.
Washington.
That was a really far reach, Kyra. You're amazing.
Yeah, that is
Thank
really,
you.
really
Yeah.
Delta has nothing on me, you guys.
All right, so why Uno, right? So we'll get to that in a second, but one thing we want to add to this is a snack. Last time we chose Cheetos and had to describe the Trump administration or second Trump administration to the choice of Cheeto we were eating or snacking off of. But this time around, we want to know and are going to discuss is democracy truly in danger? And there's going to be a lot of twists and plots and turns that we expect coming out of a second administration of Trump. So we thought, what best way to find a snack theme around something twisted or being twisted or twisting? So my choice is dark chocolate covered pretzels. Thanks to Walgreens. And no, this is not a product plug, but democracy is going to twist and at the same time get covered with brown stuff.
What?
I have no idea.
Larcy.
Okay.
No.
Okay, Ellie, what did you bring? What did you bring?
Red wines.
Ooh.
Strawberry flavored. I don't know what else to say.
That was the millennial moment, you guys.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh.
done. And scene. That was the
scene.
That
podcast.
will conclude the
And
rest
scene.
of our podcast.
Okay, let me wipe the tears out of my eyes so I can see my screen. All right, Alejandra, what's your snack?
Let's disregard what Larcy said, but I have covered pretzels from Trader Joe's. And then
They have the best snacks. I don't care what anybody says.
You're correct. You are correct.
And healthier versions.
Probably, or what we think is healthy, but sometimes it's not. Kelly, what do you have?
Never mind.
Well, I have flavor twist. They're honey barbecue Fritos.
Those are really good
Those
too.
are
Yeah.
And
Amy, what do you have?
Because I am so cheap, I just have the concepts of a Twizzler, so half of a regular Twizzler, because I'm just so sick and twisted. So just
A concept.
Hey, gobbled. Yes.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You did your big one, Amy. You did your big one.
The ghost of a Twizzler.
All right, Rowan, what snack flavor you have?
I had to double up. So I have Twizzlers and pretzels.
Oh,
And it's okay, Nini, because I got
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Don't worry. I'll give you some. I'll
Thank you
share.
so much.
so the only person with original thought in this whole thing is Kelly.
Kelly. Kelly.
Yeah.
Then Kyra, what do you have?
Yeah, what do you have, Kyra?
They're honey barbecue, so hopefully there's a little sweetness. And
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Sodium.
I love that.
Kyra, what do you have?
Okay, guys. So, before a certain somebody bans them, I'm drinking Dr. Pepper, possibly for the last time. 23 flavors of amazingness. Shout out to Texas. Yeah, there's a little rumor flying around that soda might get banned. So,
Oh, is that for real? Is that part of
Taking
the
a shot
Project
for the homie.
2025 effort to ban soda?
actually, I don't know if you guys know this dude named RFK Jr. He was running for president
Yeah.
and then he wasn't in some states.
Something
Only
about
in
a
a few
bear too, right? There was
Something about a bear
involved.
and being really healthy. I don't know, girl.
his whole
But-
family disowned him on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah,
that guy,
yeah,
that
yeah.
No,
That guy,
Yeah, that
that guy.
guy. Apparently, he really hates Dr. Pepper. So this isn't protest. It's a protest drink.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I think we all have really, really good snacks. So feel free to open them up and just gobble them down, I think. But anyways, mine has brown stuff on it, so I might skip.
What?
Okay, back to focus here. So what are we talking about? So it's democracy in danger, right? We decided to play a game of Uno. Because how often have you gone with, or how often have you played Uno cards with your friends? And like this, if things are just popping off, you're smiling, you're laughing, everyone's putting down a card, there's a flow to it. You think you're about to win, and all of a sudden somebody throws down a plus or a draw 4 or a reverse or a skip. That's something you least expected. And now all of a sudden you're down to one card, right? You're down to one card, or you think you're ready to play the card, and then the whole game totally shifted, and then you lose, and then the person who you least expected wins. Sounds about the theme of what happened this past election, with what everyone thought were the signs of a Harris Waltz win. Everything seems like it was going along the order of cosmic, intervention or alignment or whatever you want to call it. And all of a sudden, somebody Uno reversed the entire process or the entire.
Oliver plus forward, and then you think you're gonna win because that's your last card, but then they plus 4 all around, and you're like plus 16, and you're like,
Oh, and then you do this.
That's exactly what
a rule. We had a rule.
you
where
were
we
so
stack.
sure you're gonna win because you're like, my last card's a plus 4. What else could happen?
Yes, exactly.
And they
All
hit
right,
you with
so
the
let's see how far we can get down into the Uno game here. All right, Kyra, what's our first card that we want to play? Ah, okay. So we're gonna go in my screen here. Kelly, can you play?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna put down a red 5.
Okay. Ellie, what are you gonna play?
I will do a
Whoa.
red 9.
And I have a red 6. Alejandra?
Red 4.
Okay. Nini?
I have a red 2.
Okay. And then Rowan, what do you have?
I also have a red 2.
Oh, that's a
twins.
good round. Okay. Good round. All right,
Is it red
Kyra.
wave?
What are you gonna play?
I kind of want to break the streak, but I have a red 1.
Okay.
It's the red wave again, you guys. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
This is so unexpected.
Oh, too soon.
Too soon.
I'm gonna break that then because now I'm sad. So I'm gonna put down a wild.
Oh.
Color is actually blue.
Okay. All right, Ellie. Blue it is.
Ooh, I'll put down a blue 2.
Okay. And I have a blue 0.
And then I have a green 0.
Ooh.
Oh, it's me, right?
Yes.
Okay, I have a green skip.
Oh, Rowan.
Sorry, Rowan. Sorry, Rowan. I'm sorry.
I thought we were friends, Nini.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, Kyra, what's your move?
Red 5. I mean,
Ooh.
green
Oh.
5.
Like, oh, okay.
I need
Kyra,
the dot.
yeah. I was gonna say they have, if you don't know the color.
Oh, that's
I'm
right.
still learning.
have the
I need you guys
shades.
to teach me. Rowan, you're a teacher, right? I need you to teach me my colors. Thank you.
All right, Kelly.
I'm sorry, it was a green 5, right?
Green. Yes.
A green 0.
Okay. Ellie.
I'll just start it. Sorry, Larcy, I will give you a plus 2.
Fine. Oh, look at that. Okay, Alejandra.
Okay. I'm also gonna do the same thing and I'm gonna put down a plus 2.
Oh, well, I'm gonna double down and put a red +2.
Rowan,
Rowan. Oh, I got a green.
Kyra, please.
Kyra, that's you.
No.
I acted self-defense, guys.
So,
Kyra, you got 6 cards.
You got
so you
6
put
cards.
put
6
down.
cards. You
This feels like an attack, and I've already been through it enough this month.
It's December 4th.
The 4th.
Whoa.
Anyway, I'm just gonna collect my cards in peace.
Some big cards.
All right. What green? Oh, what color are we at?
we're on a green draw 2.
Green?
Green.
So like my bad, but that's all I got. So a little draw 2.
Oh, that's crazy work, Kelly. That's
Here,
crazy work.
Ellie.
That's crazy work.
Okay. So we just threw down a bunch of +2s that made Kyra draw $1 million. In a bonus draw for Ellie. So the point of all of this is here we are thinking, that one person is gonna win or lose at this point, but I'm gonna double down and just go straight up reverse on everyone and everything here. And that's what it kind of feels like right now, where again, we have made a ton of progress. Since coming out of the Jim Crow era, the civil rights movement doubled down on our liberties with civil rights, with women's rights, voting rights. And all of a sudden, 50 some years later, we get one of these thrown in our lifetime. And what is going to happen now in the second Trump administration? When the first round of, or the first time he was in office, it was messy, it was chaotic. They're trying to figure all of it out because they had no experience whatsoever how to run a country. And they have a little bit of experience now. And if you compare what happened the first time to now, they're going to do some damage. So this reverse is going to feel like, is it going to be a long time since somebody also reverses? Is it going to be that much longer where somebody throws in another wild card, you know, to kind of stop what is going to happen? So we don't know. So we're going to discuss kind of what we are going to do here. Is democracy really in danger? Across the world, there were a ton of anti-incumbent movements that were happening. I don't want to say it's a movement, but just a reaction to what happened. We had COVID that hit. And in order for society to kind of come from the ruins of that, we pumped a bunch of benefits and services back into our economy to kind of revive ourselves out of COVID. And so this temporary relief eventually did run out because we were back to normal at some point. And so now there was a reaction to that kind of treatment, and a lot of that was felt across the globe. So does anybody want to else add to that about feeling like there was something that was really going well and then it didn't feel like it was going well anymore?
Yeah, like, I mean, when I was canvassing, and specifically in Pennsylvania on the last week, I just met specifically so many people that were Republican on paper who had a very strong opinion on not voting this way because they felt that either their party was in trouble or that the country was more important than the party, period. And so meeting, like, because I would say that at least 40% of the doors I knocked on were like that. And so seeing that at such a big rate, it kind of made me think, oh, the numbers have to be a certain way because it's not just the norms, but it's also more people. So that kind of like it really did a reverse in my head afterwards.
Yeah, and this is that side of what we do is not common knowledge either, right? We go and travel and door knock on voters' doors to get them out to vote. And right now, a lot of the political strategies are being questioned. Are they effective? Is door knocking effective? Is phone banking effective? If it did not turn out the win that we wanted it. And how is everybody else feeling right now living, as a progressive individual living in a red state?
I think it's all very difficult, especially like I will agree with Kelly. Like I talked to a lot of people like in my circle and like outside of my circle, they were like more towards like the Democratic Party, but like again, like the results were so different. And also like I guess like because I'm Hispanic and I'm like Latina, like a lot of the people that voted were Latino men. And I was again like very like taken back because I'm like, we saw him in his first term, and why are you gonna vote for them? Why are you gonna vote for him again after you saw what he did and the way that he treated us and the way that he views you as well?
I was gonna say I definitely feel like I live in like kind of like a bubble, only because like, all of us are really well informed, and so it's really hard for me to like keep in mind that like there are people still around me that didn't even know like they weren't registered to vote, or they didn't even know like early voting was happening. And it came to a point where I was like really frustrated because I was like, how are you like so like out of touch that you don't even realize that this is going on? But it's like also coming from a point, it's like not everyone is so like politically engaged that it's like probably difficult that they don't understand the importance. And especially like in Texas, like it does feel like your vote doesn't matter because we're filled with so many red counties. It's like, what's the point of even voting blue? So while it's been difficult, like traveling to California the past last month or so, like when we had to cure ballots for Derek Tran, it really like puts in perspective that like there are still so many races to fight for. And so it really does like give me hope. Even though like I'm in a red state, there's always a chance that we could flip and we can flip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you, Rowan.
We had a conversation because I'm an education major, but I'm also a poli-sci major. And first of all, that duality gives me a really interesting perspective seeing it. But seeing that there was this one girl in my class who was talking about, like, I guess her mom used to be, like, super, like, liberal, super, like, pro women's rights, and then she voted against it this election. She was like, "Oh, for" it was one of those, like, for the gas prices or whatever, and she's like, "We can focus on our rights later." She said the girl said her mom says, "We can focus on our rights later." I was like,
Wow.
When they're
no.
gone, or so.
That's what I'm like,
Yeah,
"What?"
I guess like
Yeah.
that's really the conundrum in all of this is how do we both focus on the short-term stuff, short-term solution, and also the long term. And maybe at this point you don't. Maybe you focus on one or the other because it maybe is hard for people to focus on both, right? Like for her to say, in my mind, I want long-term stuff, but there's something happening right now that wants me that I want the short-term stuff more, that I'm willing to sacrifice the long term for this short term.
Yeah.
Like I guess
I think you can
like
have both
yeah.
though. I think you can have both though. Two things can be true at once. And I think it just comes down to a matter of, again, like what Mimi was saying, education and holding it at an importance. For me, it was talking to my friends who are very politically involved. I mean, worked on like presidential campaigns. I'll put it like that. And they, as a Black man living in the South, voted for Trump. Worked on the campaign, voted for Trump. And one of the things that really drew him to do that was, one, he was enlisting into the military, and two, tariffs. And so that's a big topic of conversation is tariffs. And so the not understanding that really drove people. We talked about this last podcast, people Googling what are tariffs after the election. Dr. Hassan Jeffries talked about it in his lecture 2 weeks ago with the Institute, where people were Googling all these things after the fact and now understanding, oh my goodness, tariffs mean I'm going to be paying for it. So you're the short term of, oh, I don't want to be paying for X, Y, and Z. Well, if you would have just educated yourself just a little bit with a Merriam-Webster dictionary, you would have learned what a tariff was. And that's not even being shady. That's being shady. and so this is something that's going to impact you in the long term and the short term. So are you willing to sacrifice gas prices over rights or Apple prices over your rights when really they're both going to be jeopardized? And it's just simply understanding it. But I think because we hold everything at like these really high like level conversations, people are like, can we just talk about the small stuff?
Yeah.
And they get clouded.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but the duality of some of these ideas is so interesting to me because like you also said like he's in the military or something like that. But then like and so I know there are some that will have like these Trump signs and then they'll have like, oh, we love the military. But then like I saw a sign when I was out and it said Trump called I'm a military veteran and I'm not a loser, which is based off of something that Trump said.
Yeah.
Because so he's like, I'm military, so I'm definitely not voting for him. So it's so interesting how like
yeah, it's so interesting how people can package any duality. Like they both can exist at the same time. Like somebody could be for Second Amendment rights, right? And also be reproductive freedoms, right? Like and I think that's probably where a lot of what has happened in our political landscape is like you have to be one or the other, right? You have to be left and a right. You have to be this. If you're for this, that means you're against this. And that's the hyperpolarization of topics around politics, right? But speaking of dualities, and that we can praise something and also at the same time critique their approach to whatever happened. We could shade something, but also at the end agree that maybe that was the only choice they did to get to that point. So speaking of praise and shade, Ellie has some topics that she needs some opinions on. So what are they? What are they, Ellie?
So let's get into our segment of praise and shade. Praise or shade. So the first one, it's been going around quite a bit, President Biden, there's some, some things around. So what do you guys think of him pardoning Hunter Biden? Are we praising it? Are we shading it?
Can I go?
Sideways?
I know, like, can we go like this?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, why Rowan? Why a sideways thumb? It's not called a thumbs up, it's a thumb sides.
Yeah. Because in the political climate we're in, like in comparison, it really seems like nothing. It
Mhm.
seems like we've seen so much worse happen, but I'm also of the opinion that doesn't make it better. I don't think like I feel like presidential pardons are such a they like essentially violate like the fact that like no one's above the law. Like they're just so like it's such a conundrum. Like
So
it's a
the
paradox.
act itself. So you're saying the act itself shouldn't
Yeah,
be.
I can't even like begin. But like, do I think that this is like evil and totally reprehensible? No, like so many worse people, in my opinion, have been pardoned that like I don't think it's as big as a deal as people are making it.
Well, who's though? Who is making it a big deal? I think that's the other
Yeah,
question is
it's
like
also
who's taking this story and like running with it.
running with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Supporters are like and conservatives are like really upset, but it's really ironic because I wish I could remember the man's name who posted it, but someone was like, "You got a pardon." So I don't know what's happening right now. And so like you said, like I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I don't even see why they care. I mean, I know why they care, but I don't see how they could pretend to care. Because yeah, Trump pardoned a lot of people, whether it was necessary or not, and he's probably going to do more. I mean, like the January 6 people.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay,
It just sets a bad precedent. I
All
think that's
due
where-
respect, Trump is a convicted felon.
that too.
Pardon himself.
Can he? I was going
If
to
you
say,
have a problem with the law,
yeah.
And
So,
my
yeah.
thing, like, not only the reason I give it praise, but also it is shady, is I'm giving it praise because people are unpacking what it means to be pardoned, and it's bringing it to light. Because
Yeah.
before it was just like this conspiracy theory conversation that was really happening amongst conservative groups, right? And so, I don't know if you guys remember, if this is on your feeds, and I really know this because of Laurel Haddock. Shout out to her. But there was a gentleman who was incarcerated. He was on death row, and people were really fighting to get him pardoned. And they were begging and pleading with the president and VP Harris, and she was starting her campaign at the time, and that they wouldn't talk about it. And so, the reason why I give it praise is because we're talking about it again. It's bringing it to light again, and it's not just in these conservative groups. It's like normal conversation now because everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's so iconic that he pardoned his son!" Like that's like the final like, haha, get back because he said he wouldn't do it. But it's also shady because why are we pardoning certain people? Like people were in death row. I mean, what was it? 3 men in Alabama were suffocated to death last month.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. BFFR. Like we have bigger fish to fry when it talks about pardoning people, but at least we're having normal conversation about it.
Yeah.
And not acting like it's not happening.
Yeah.
I would like to see pardons used for stuff like that. That's like saving people's lives.
Yeah.
And it just feels so. I feel shady towards it in the way that again, it just feels like everything is just a joke right now. Like
Exactly. Yeah, I feel the same way.
How about you, Alejandra? What thumb direction are we going?
I would be like in the middle as well. Like I agree with what everyone says. I was gonna say like I would kind of praise him just because like me personally, if it was like my son or my daughter, I think I would probably do the same.
Yeah, that's very true. Look, when I said it from the get-go, knowing that there won't be another, Biden administration after this, but to say like, if you know you're at the tail end of this, you just like what you want to do. If I was in that, what I would do is just give everybody like executive.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, it's like, can he just like start doing a whole bunch of stuff that like, clearly like, come on, like can we just throw some stuff at the end, like give everyone $1,000, get everyone a pardon, like can we bring abortion back, like can we just like bring everything back,
Oprah,
like please,
you get a car, you
get a car,
you get rights, you get citizenship,
like please, like
something, right? Okay, all right. So that was a little mix there, Ellie. So some people praise it, some people shade it. Just in the context, again, in the whole context.
In the context.
In the whole context. All right, what's
in
next?
The coconut water.
We should have been. Her fall supporters should have been called coconut heads. I stand by that.
So another one that we have is, there's a lot of stuff going on between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. So, and in the midst of all that, Trump said that Canada should become our 51st state. At least from what I heard.
Of course he did. Of
He
course he
said
did.
that because Canada was saying that the tariffs would affect them drastically. So, are we praising it? Are we shading it? And then I was like, I don't know. But then I had seen something about Bernie Sanders said that if we're gonna take Canada as our 51st state, but we should take their health care.
Of course he did.
What
Of
is
course he did.
Canada?
Of course he did.
The way their healthcare works. But I'm like,
Did Canada
Canada's a
say they
whole
wanted
country.
to
It's
come?
like a whole bunch of different. They have like their own states.
Why don't we just make Justin Trudeau president? How about
There
that?
you go. Yeah, shade. Or
Come
no,
on.
that's praise. Total shade. This
I
is
do have to say, American healthcare. I fell off a horse like a month ago. I had to get tiny stitches in my knee without, if my insurance didn't cover it, which I only have insurance through college, if my insurance didn't cover it, it would have been almost $800, almost
That's
1.8.
crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And there was
Yeah.
and I think it could have been, that was like the insurance rate, and like it would have been even higher if I was uninsured. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I went
like,
for a
Did you see the CEO got shot today?
Yes, of the United Healthcare.
United
Yes.
Health. He got
Yes.
shot. And then Blue Cross, I'm pretty sure it was Blue Cross, correct me if I was wrong. Their CEO posted like, so yeah, that anesthesia thing, there's certain surgeries, you don't need it for the whole procedure. And everybody was like, you might want to take that post down. There's somebody out there. Mama, they're behind you.
Like, mama, they're awake behind you. Like,
Wait,
They're-
no. He took
Yeah, the
shade
healthcare in
already.
America.
Well, if we're gonna do any territory to become a state, why wouldn't DC or Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Rico
Well,
needs to become a state.
we get Nolan on this
Inviting
podcast.
this.
we need to hold space for Puerto Rico right now. We need to hold
Yes,
space.
like,
We need to
yes.
hold
for real,
space.
and I
Like,
think
you know how much money Puerto Rico provides so much, and we give nothing to Puerto Rico.
Yes.
Like at all. It's
Literally.
it's like how undocumented immigrants pay taxes, and then they billions. Not
Yeah.
a million, billions of dollars
I mean,
into the tax system.
speaking from personal experience, well, not that I was born at that time, but the Philippines was also an American territory where we did give to America, but then we did get our own
you
independence.
didn't get anything back.
I mean,
We
you just
did.
you just barely got the independence. Like,
Yes, seriously. So yes, Puerto Rico needs to be a state. Yes, DC needs to be a state. And I think some parts of the article was also saying, or just rumored in the past, saying that like they want to switch out some of the more, lighter skin toned countries over the browner skin toned countries. They're like, come on, like we can't be real. Like that's
Can we just talk about the fact that we definitely stole Texas? Texas is a part of Mexico.
yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Like, Hawaii?
Yeah.
Tyra, that is like one of my favorite hills to like preach on.
Like,
literally
if we're
carved it out.
like we literally like that. Like, remember the Alamo? Yeah, we remember
I
that
don't.
because you wanted to
I
own
don't.
people, and they were like, we don't do that in Mexico. Like,
Exactly. Like literally, that was one of my from a history major, and that lesson blew me.
Yeah.
Like they were like, literally, you can't have your slaves here, and now that you've been here this long, please pay us taxes. No.
Right.
like,
No,
actually,
literally,
we didn't
I'm in-
own it. Like, this is literally the Alamo. Like, tariffs, taxes. I don't know, you guys.
No, seriously, like I'm in Mexican American history right now, and we were talking about the Alamo, and I was like, wait, like I didn't know half of this information. Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, it's crazy. No,
Like,
yeah,
imagine
that's-
waking up because a lot of slaves like escaped to Mexico too. Because
Yep, because Mexico
And,
outlawed it
yes,
abolished.
literally.
They were the
Because
first
kind
to
of the
abolish
whole-
slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also interracial marriages wasn't an issue there. So like imagine just waking up in Mexico and then they were like, oh, you're in Texas now. That's
And you're like, what?
I know.
What?
Like, all of the Afro Latinas are like, I'm sorry, what did you
Like,
say?
what?
yeah.
The intersectionality of Texas is crazy. Like, crossover episode. Yeah, let's just give Texas
I was like,
back.
it's okay, guys, don't come here.
So I would say that would be what? Shade? Shade.
Yes, shade.
How about Alejandra? What do you think? Shade?
I would say shade. Yeah.
All right, what's our
So-
last one?
So since we're on the topic of Mexico, the first female president for Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. I might be butchering her name a little bit. She was an environmental scientist. She was a former mayor for Mexico City. She wrote a letter to Trump about the stance of migration, fentanyl traffic, and the tariffs.
Weapons too, right?
And weapons, yeah.
And weapons.
And she talks about how, in the letter, she talked about how the data from the CBPs, the Customs and Border Protection, it says how the encounters at the U.S. and Mexico border has decreased 75% from December of 2023 and November of 2024.
Which is counter and opposite of what
Mhm.
they campaigned their entire
Yep.
campaign on about the crisis, how much more they're flooding in. And then she took data from our
Yeah.
own US data people and was like, actually, it's down.
Then she also mentions how Trump should be aware of the illegal trafficking of firearms into Mexico that come from the US.
Yeah.
And then of how also the 70% of the illegal weapons seized from criminals in Mexico come from the US, and the imposing tariffs would lead to inflation and job losses in both the US and Mexico. So
Praise.
Right? Oh no, the
Praise.
I love her.
beautiful.
it was
Yeah.
it was a long
She was
letter,
even
yeah.
she was
Hated
even
the
saying,
hell
like,
out of him.
Right.
Mhm.
high praise, high praise. She was also saying the demand of the drugs that
Mhm.
that is going into the US, the demand for that drug is actually hurting her people to
Yeah.
manufacture it because of a high demand in the US. Like she
Mhm.
wrote down specific facts, but we know facts don't matter in that
Yeah.
Right.
alternate world. So she
Yeah.
backed it up. So she had a perspective, an opinion,
Mhm.
diplomacy, and then facts.
And then from there, it's like Canada came in and it was like, they have a big problem. And then she came back and she's like, actually, Canada has a worse fentanyl problem. And then they're like, don't compare us. Mexico and Canada, we're different. And people were like, what's in Canada? Who says, let's have a destination wedding in Canada compared to, in Mexico.
Mhm.
And then she's like, she also mentioned something about Canada doesn't have the culture of, they wish to have the culture of Mexico.
Ooh.
Mhm.
So she was like
Read that part.
firing at them. I was like, yes, you go.
Yeah,
I love women presidents. Oh my goodness. Could you imagine all three of us women presidents? I'm manifesting it. Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Oh, babe. The barbs.
In your life, okay, in the lifetimes of the people of this screen, because one of the sad realities with not having Harris win was a lot of our boomer community members.
They're not going to elect another woman.
Well, they
Yeah.
won't ever see it.
Yeah.
They won't ever see it. And there were
Yeah.
some breakdowns of some of the boomer folks who were like, it took my lifetime to get us to here, thinking that we would also see the finish line. And I think that's the reality of this kind of work, this just justice work, is that it's going to, there is a reality and a fact that you won't see the fruits of your work.
Labor.
But
Mhm.
your responsibility is to make it easy for the next generation to possibly see it. So that was reassurance that we had to go tell her, to say, thank you for getting us this far. Therefore, someone in this next generation can potentially see it. Well, you have to do your part to get us closer to it.
Mhm.
You
So
really
high
like
praise
that.
all around for the new
Yeah.
Mexican
She's
president.
The 66th
Yeah.
president, first female.
66.
Yep. The 66th
Wow.
president.
Wow.
Can you believe we're all like, here we are, and how many years of a more civilized world that
And-
we're only still seeing firsts of
Right.
things.
Yeah, it amazes me.
Yeah. And the thing that like shocks me is like, this is Mexico. They talk about the Latinos being, the highest of Trump supporters or whatever, the Latino men, but it's like they were also voting for her in Mexico.
Mhm.
And so it's like you think about it, and then you come here, and it's also like if you're second, third generations, at that point, it's like you are just too like whitewashed, I guess. You've assimilated into the American culture. and so they make you believe like you're here, like you don't claim your culture, which is like
That's the poison of white supremacy. It's like the whole idea is to, you know, keep you in a place, keep us in a place where we feel like we can be better than someone the closer we can get to.
Yeah, and I think it's like that exceptionalism type of attitude and mentality is like through these last decades, you know, of America being front and center in politics is this perpetuation of this like American exceptionalism, right? Where immigrants come to America to be exceptional, where a lot of things look at, or a lot of countries look at America to be this model of exception and exceptionalism. And then here we are, we became the same set of victims across the country. We were no better. We did not fare any better than other countries out there in modern worlds or first worlds that still became victim of an anti-incumbent wave.
I feel like it's definitely the same with like Asian communities, like no matter like where you're from, like I feel like the younger generations are also kind of like forgetting that their parents like had to flee like genocides of their own people to like come here and like have to work this hard, and then like for you to like, you know, go off and, you know, say, you know, I don't care about voting. I don't care about this. Like this doesn't affect me. It actually does. So, you know, it just kind of sucks that like you see that privilege like more and more each day. And it kind of sucks, like, especially from like being in that community, it's like, but this is like us, this is what our parents fought, this is what our grandparents fought for, and you're just kind of like undermining their, you know, hard work, you know.
I really do realize like I don't, it's so like talk about being in a bubble. Like growing up, I was very history oriented just because it's like my mom's thing. And then so a lot of those things have always been in the forefront of my mind, whether it's voting or just in general, like where we come from, and not just me as a Black woman, but just like I love history, so I know about like different things and different struggles of people, especially in this country. And so yeah, when I meet people and they have no clue or no interest rather, it's so confusing to me because we're not that far removed. Things are not that far away. But I mean, like, you know, in the LGBTQ plus community, friends who took this as who this year not as much, but still take it as a joke. And I'm like, bro, where are you? Like we said, it makes me think of John Lennon. No, not John Lennon. John Lewis.
Imagine all the people.
And now we have to do a song feature in our podcast. We're gonna get copyrighted here.
Yep. No, Don Lewis. And he said, I spilled a little blood on that bridge. I'm not asking you to spill blood. Just do it. Like, I think about that a lot because I feel like we're gonna get to a place, I mean, already in some ways we kind of are, where we're gonna have to spill blood again. And I'm like, we could have not. Like y'all could have taken this seriously and you could remember what your ancestors went through.
I have a question for
I think it's sorry. I was just gonna say, I think something that's unique about this call, first of all, we all are like super gorgeous, but also we are all very diverse, and all of us, majority of us are either we're all either a person of color or we're a part of a minority group, essentially, right? And so I think that our unique take on it is offering this perspective to people who might be watching to be like, dang, like they have to care because that's their lived experience. But the people who opt out of not caring, who may look like us, I feel like sometimes it's because they start having this proximity to whiteness where they think, well, if my white peers don't care about these things and they don't, because it doesn't impact them. Like you can front all day long, like, yeah, me and like my boy, like we're the same, but like, no, you do have a different struggle and your friends should care about that. It's about who you surround yourself with. And so I think when like people like you forgot what your ancestors and your family fought for you, that's because they don't hang out with people who have that lived experience. And so it's easy for them to forget about that shit. Like no, chat, like mama was on the bridge fighting for you last week. Like,
right. No, and I 100% agree with you, but I do think there are also people in like minority groups, and I'll just speak for like Black people that I've met that that they're on the other side of it. They don't have approximately whiteness, but they also just don't, like, they still have no connection to history, and they don't. It's because I'm the kind of person that wants you to care, so I'm gonna keep talking.
Me too.
And so I'm just like, how do you not care? And they're just like, ah. And I'm just
I guess that's going to be the biggest I guess, question moving forward, right, is how do we get people to care? How do we get them to want to care? How do we give them even information to care about, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are some conversations already you guys are having in your social circles of those people, you know, that care? Because like we're kind of divided into like this whole country, right? We have the East and the West, and then like the middle is always just like up for grabs every time the political cycle goes, right? We just kind of go and look at the middle and we're like, all right, what do we have here, right? I mean, and not at all, you know, putting in factors like gerrymandering, right? Unfair districting, you know, strategies in some of these states so that certain people can maintain power and stay in power, right? So I think like overall in our history of that, I really believe we are in a backlash of those of the rights that people have fought for and actually did gain. We're in a backlash of that. What is there next? Right? I know that this 4 years is going to seem really long to a lot of people, particularly who were impacted by the first administration in Trump, and then who will be continuously impacted, and there'll be more people impacted by that. So it's going to be a long 4 years, y'all. Like, what are you guys willing to do, or have you even thought about what that would look like for all of you? Because we're gonna live out of, like, we're going to come through this. Like, we're going to see 2028, right, with a different test. You know, Trump's not going to run again, but hyper focusing on somebody like a Trump and not realizing the culture of Trumpism and the culture of MAGA, then we will kind of be blinded by other Trumps characters, right? Like, what is this about, this Trumpism and MAGA movement that it feels so strong now? And how are we going to get through this in the next 4 years so that in 2028, you know, there could be a potential backlash from it as well?
I think one of the biggest things for me is that like in 2028, Texas is going to have more electoral votes, right? So Texas is going to be like this really big state. And I feel like a lot of people like don't realize like how close we actually are to flipping blue. I mean, like in 2018, when Beto O'Rourke ran against Ted Cruz, he was short only 200, like 20,000 votes.
Yeah.
From, you know, up like seating Ted Cruz. So it's like we're so close. Like, and to like start the work now, it's like we're already in this mindset like, oh, everything's gonna be so bad, like what are we gonna do? But like it's like organizations like, you know, Decent Words or like Move Texas that are like already setting this motion. Like the work isn't done. Like there's still volunteers that we can use for like all the smaller judicial races that are still upcoming, the runoffs and stuff. So it's like I always feel like there's no more work to be done, but there's always work to be done. And I feel like that's what we just need to like push that message out, is that like we can't stop. Like we just can't stop now.
Well, I hate to play devil's advocate here,
Yeah.
but Alejandra, you live in a state where it was red, flipped blue.
Mhm.
Now it's flipped back to
Put
red.
back.
So what happened?
I wish I knew, but I feel like it also does lie, like, again, with like being like educated and realizing that, like, you know, understanding what you're voting for and like what they represent and what they're gonna do, like, and how it affects you. Because I will say, like, I do have like family members and friends that like voted for Trump, but I feel like it did lack on like them being uneducated, them just saying, oh, like, oh, a lot of people are voting for him, like I'll just vote for him as well. But and I know it also comes with like stubbornness, like people just don't want to change their mind. They don't want to take time to like do their research. So I feel like education, like I feel like I was able to help and change some of my friends' minds, or like some of like the older people around me, just like telling them like, hey, like this is what, you know, you're gonna get yourself into and things like that.
Yeah, and that's true. I think we just have to. So the question is, there is information, and when you give people that information, they do something with it. But it's also true with bad information. They will also do something with it. So how do we then curate a set of information that allows them to think productively so that they don't go and use it for the negative, you know, outcomes and stuff, right? I mean, thank God for Action Academy, but not everybody gets an Action Academy to really learn the systems and what has, you know, shaped civics, you know, in our country and stuff. So Rowan, you're a teacher, and Kelly, so are you. Like, what are some of the things, you know, maybe even a broader conversation in curriculum in about re-engaging civics back into curriculum or just in the day-to-day classroom spaces?
Oh, go ahead. You go first.
Go ahead. I'm grabbing something.
Oh, okay. So I was a middle school teacher for 2 years and some change. but I don't teach formally anymore, which I've actually been thinking lately might be my superpower because I do live in Florida, which is terrible. Save me. Anyway, but so I use my social medias a lot, and I even created like an Instagram that's specifically supposed to be about building the beloved community. That's my tattoo. It says beloved. But the point is, like, I try to share history things or just community things. And I want to make more things about civics because on my last educators trip, I just felt like we were talking a lot about like ways to kind of circumvent the ridiculous rules, and it's probably going to get worse. So shout out to Common Power Institute. If you're an educator, please use it. But I kept thinking, you know what, I don't have to circumvent. And I know that I have kids that watch me. And so I personally, like, I have the background of the knowledge and I have the background of the pedagogy and all that, and I know how to teach. But also I'm like, well, how can I reach kids that also maybe weren't listening in class, but they're scrolling on their phone? So I feel like as all of us who do things, if ever you can share a little lesson, share something civically oriented, I really want to, because also I feel like I kind of talked over myself for a second, but also I feel like, especially as a history teacher, I feel like history is where not only do you learn your past and it should help you understand your present and future, but it's also where you start to build empathy. And because we are kind of cutting things like that at the knees, I think that's another problem that we're gonna have, and it's gonna get worse, is where, and there's so much you learn, the critical thinking, critical history, anyway, but you should just be able to think critically, period. Anyway, but the critical thinking, the empathy you build because you learn about the Holocaust, you learn about the Civil Rights Movement, you learn about the shirtwaist fires, you learn these things, you go, man, that's bad, what can we do to make that better? And kids are good with that, kids are great with that, they love that. And so yeah, that's basically the way I see going forward, is I feel like it's my duty to try and just share what I can and like encourage other people to, because the kids are going to stay online, they're going to be there. And so it's like I'm like doing little secret lessons and stuff and making people learn whether they want to or not.
Yep.
Because yeah, I'm afraid for the future when it comes to the youngsters, especially in this era, because they really are. So my first year teaching was 2020. So right dead in the pandemic. I had half kids online, half kids at home. They were stressed to no end. They were also stressed about the world around them. And I am thankful that the school I was at the time really didn't try to like stop us from talking to them, or maybe they just didn't notice, whatever. And so because they had all these questions about George Floyd and this and that, and I felt good to be able to let them talk and feel and think. And I was big on thinking for themselves. And I just feel like the further we get into this, before this administration even takes over again, the further, but we've still got DeSantis, we've still got these people who are already in power, the worse it gets for the education system. And the education system already has its flaws. They don't learn right anymore. They just don't. And now they want to take away the Board of Education because that's supposed to fix it. Man. So I think it's like our duty to just, everyone should be a teacher, I guess.
I agree. Do your part. Do your small part. Do your small part to impart some wisdom. All right, Ron, what do you got? I saw you bring up a book. Yeah.
Stacey speak.
She just released this. What I was gonna say though with this is like kids have empathy. Kids, like, you teach, they're like, I've realized recently, like, I want to be like a preschool teacher because like props to anyone who can teach like older, but like the social emotional, like learning how to have empathy for other people is just like, that is what I want to like, that kind of like era of like where I teach, the curriculum is like kindness and self-awareness and like learning about yourself and like other people. But like even being in an older classroom right now, I'm with 2-year-olds, but I'm also with 4th graders. And like they have the tools to learn, like and there are all these book bans, and like luckily I live in Connecticut. I do my student teaching, my interning in New Jersey. Like we don't have those restrictions yet, but like finding books and like honestly it's like teaching through like diversity because like I know like I'm a white woman, I'm in a classroom, like a lot of my students are like immigrants. I'm in actually MLL, which is a multi-language learner classroom, so a lot of them actually like just moved here, or they moved here recently, or like their parents still speak a different language, so it's a much more diverse, like whereas like my family's been here forever. Like I am a white woman. I'm a queer woman, but I'm a white woman. Like, but being able to bring in like teaching them about like their culture, other cultures, like bringing in just empathy, and like I think that's like really where we need to go, is like to teach people that like yes, maybe it's a scary world around, but like we can still be good people. Like you need to teach like the basics of like how to like be a civic person, like be engaged. Like I was there on election day. We had an election, like all of them, we lined them all up, we checked them in to vote. They like all casted their ballots, and they all waited until the end of the day for the results. Like it was this whole process, and like teaching them like to care about these things, like that they need to care about each other, they need to care about the world. Like that is really where it starts, and that's like why like, I have my poli sci major where, like, I always joke, like, I lose a lot of faith in the world. Um, and then I have, because especially, like, I did an emergency, like, crisis politics, seeing all that. And then I go into the classroom and, like, these kids are, like, they bring me so much joy because, like, they're learning so much and they want, like, even the kids that don't want to learn, like, they're learning, like, emotional skills. Like, there are kids that may not want to do the schoolwork, but they're still learning, they're interacting with peers, like, those, like, you can teach them empathy. Teachers have that, like, position where you can teach people to be good people. Like, you are with them so much of their days that, like, that's really, like, and that's what's gonna get us to a place where, like, we all are gonna be more accepting. We're not gonna be, like, discriminating towards each other because 'cause we've been taught, like, from the beginning that like it's okay, we're all gonna look different, we're all gonna act different. Like I don't know if it was part of your teaching, but I have like being a culturally responsive teacher was like the first thing I learned was like meeting the diversity of your students and like increasing the diversity they're exposed to. Like that was like the core, like I was really lucky. That was like the core foundation of me learning to be a teacher, is to learn to teach diverse learners, diverse needs, and diverse subjects. Like that's just really important, and I think, like, that's the thing, like, even if you're not a teacher, like, anytime you interact, especially with younger kids, like, empathy, social awareness, like, all of that is so important, and that's something you can give them.
And that seems to be the thing that's lost, right? And that's probably a different episode from now, but we're going to wrap this one up to just put it out there to everybody, is that we are going to that there's going to be a requirement from us to be more empathetic, especially to those that think differently than us, especially some that probably appall us to death. And I mean, like we've all knocked on doors and we have encountered somebody who voted, against us, who like vehemently say we're the bad people, but we're supposed to show empathy towards you. Yes. And also, somebody has to model it. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to win everybody over in that immediate in exchange and interaction, but little bits count. Little things are also wins, and eventually snowball into something super big. So Kelli and Rowan, please continue the effort. I'm just really starting it from scratch, or not scratch, but from the beginning, like you said, Rowan, about this is just simple things, back to basics. And I think like we're not retreating, we're regrouping and just figuring out what's working and what we need to continue and build upon. And for Nini and Alejandra, living in red states that are just like once blue, then back to red or almost blue, you have our support and others out there that we can get you there, right? I think that there's a different definition of democracy that is being celebrated right now, right? We want a multicultural democracy. Like Rowan was saying, we want multicultural, we want diversity, we want inclusivity. So that's the definition of our democracy. As you can see in this screen, how, you know, diverse we all are, and how great perspectives, our minds contributed to really, really great perspectives here. And that's what we want. Like, we want to have a seat at the table. We want to be able to say, here's my lived in experience, and you don't need to go get a PhD for that. I lived it every day, and it does also count. So if you're listening and you're watching, this is what we want you to join. This is the definition of a democracy we all want to live in, because everybody can contribute and will. And all our responsibility now is to encourage it, to give them the knowledge, to feel empowered, and to have the agency to decide what type of society people want to live in. So thank you all for being on here. That was really fun. I don't know who won the game of Uno. I'm just going to give it to Duty, because he was the side commentary in this whole thing, the background music and noise. So he wins for today and this round. But Kelly, Rowan, Alejandra, and Nini, thank you for joining. You're not lost in the community out there. You're part of our Common Power family. And we're all lucky that you guys are out there representing us to the depths of your spirit, to hang on to progress and democracy.
Thank you.
Wait, guys,
Thank
I have to
you.
collect all the Uno cards.
Oh,
Pass them
Oh
back.
shoot. Okay, sorry.
I'm ready to collect them.
Okay, ready?
Put them back in the box. Yeah, yeah.
There's
just-
Ellie's, and okay, here you
Oh,
go.
everybody's throwing them.
Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
just
We're just
thank
all
you,
doing
and then
it.
thank
All
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
Judy needs to
Here.
play them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you all.
Well, thank
team.
you guys.
Holidays.
Yes.
Happy holidays, you guys.
Bye. Love y'all.
Love you
Peace out.
guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you next episode.
Yay.
The recording.
Oh, wait.